the interactive entertainment industry is developing at a breakneck pace, meeting the most fantastic and incredible needs of gamers. World-famous companies and little-known developers release games for every taste, sometimes creating truly disgusting and disturbing specimens. We present to your attention a selection of the most interesting and unusual games of the past that stand out brightly among the vast amount of content. It is widely speculated that the video game Doom 2 inspired Eric Harris, one of the perpetrators of the Columbine High School massacre, to plan his attack. Harris was an avid player of the shooter and even created custom levels for the game. Most of these levels are now lost, but one stands out: OAC Labs, WAD, which remains accessible. Created in 1996, 3 years before the incident, the map reportedly resembles the high school. The game starts outside a building with the player armed only with a pistol. Progressing inside, a shotgun becomes available. Some believe the map was created to help strategize the attack, though this is unproven speculation. Lunar Game is a series of 2D platformers created between 2011 and 2012. At first glance, they appear simple, but their true goal is to disturb or scare players. In the first game, players control Princess Luna on a straightforward platform with cheerful background music. After 20 to 30 seconds, the game abruptly stops, displaying a disturbing image accompanied by eerie music. Players find themselves unable to close the game until it shuts down on its own. The computer is then flooded with unsettling images and text files. Originally intended as a prank for a few friends, the creator uploaded the game to a popular site, leading to widespread attention. The Lost Souls of Tongno Eastern Mind is a surreal 1994 point-and-click game by Osamu Sato. It tells the story of Rin, a man who has lost his soul. To recover it, he borrows a friend's soul for 49 days and journeys to an island. Players traverse 5 worlds and undergo 9 reincarnations, experiencing a variety of bizarre adventures. In this game, death is not the end. Instead, players reincarnate as other characters, whose appearances can be surreal or unsettling. The game is distinguished by its unique visuals and eccentric soundtrack, creating an unsettling yet fascinating experience. Due to its limited release, obscure themes, and niche aesthetics, it has become a rare find. Emerging from the depths of the internet in 2015, Sad Satan is a mysterious and unsettling walking simulator. Unlike other games, it generates discomfort through aimless wandering and a lack of clear objectives. Players traverse dark, narrow corridors with flickering lights, creating a claustrophobic and oppressive atmosphere. The experience is amplified by chaotic audio, a mix of voices, music, and screams, and disturbing images that appear without warning. The game's enigmatic nature has sparked debates, with rumors of hidden messages and dark themes. The enduring mystery of Sad Satan enhances its eerie minimalist gameplay and disturbing content. Darkwood, a 2D survival horror game released in 2014, tells the story of a protagonist abducted, robbed, and left to escape a cursed forest. The game employs a unique semi-open world where visibility is limited, revealing new areas as the story progresses. Gameplay is divided into 2 parts: day and night. By day, players explore, interact with characters, complete quests, and fortify their shelter. By night, they can only pray to survive until morning. With its eerie atmosphere, disturbing themes, horrifying monsters, and cosmic terrors hidden in the nighttime forest, Darkwood is both terrifying and captivating. Five Nights at Freddy's is a 2014 indie point-and-click horror game about the eerie and ghostly magic of seemingly lifeless animatronic mascots at a pizzeria that come alive at night. Players take on the role of security guard Mike Schmidt, tasked with ensuring the safety of the establishment after dark. The goal is to survive the night shift from midnight to 6 a.m. while avoiding 4 animatronics. The game is a rare horror title that appeals to both young and mature fans without relying on gore or dark themes. Its widespread success led to a franchise that includes sequels, books, merchandise, and a film adaptation. Lost Boy.exe is a little-known first-person game that gained notoriety in online communities in 2012. Players are trapped in a labyrinth without objectives or tasks, aimlessly wandering in a hopeless atmosphere. While the game's design is simple, it stands out for its unsettling satanic imagery and biblical motifs. There's no escape or conventional scares. Instead, the game focuses on creating a deeply unnerving atmosphere rather than functioning as a full-fledged game. Lost Boy drew attention for a widely circulated version containing malware designed to steal players' personal information. Its eerie visuals and mysterious viral content added to its infamy, making it a subject of both caution and intrigue. This unusual adult action game is often called one of the worst ever made. Simple in concept, consisting of a single repetitive scene. It was first released in November 1982. Players control the protagonist, General Custer, whose objective is to cross the screen while dodging arrows to reach an indigenous woman named Revenge, tied to a post on the other side, and earn 50 points before the game resets. Stuart Cohn, president of the company behind the game, stated their goal was to entertain players. When people play our games, we want them to smile and laugh. The game sparked widespread outrage and was labeled as disgusting and socially irresponsible. This 2006 game is based on the popular Christian apocalyptic fiction series by Chris LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. It combines religious themes with strategy gameplay. Players lead a group called the Tribulation Force, a Christian society in post-rapture New York City, fighting against the Antichrist's army. The game involves base building, resource management, and training units, with the goal of saving as many people as possible from the clutches of the Antichrist. One unique aspect of Left Behind is its emphasis on non-violent options. Players are encouraged to use prayer and spiritual influence to convert enemies, as excessive violence can lead to potential failure. The game sparked controversy and criticism for its narrative, though some praised it as one of the best games centered on biblical faith. The anti-Chinese propaganda 2D shooter Hong Kong 97, notorious for its controversial and bizarre content, was created in just 1 week in 1995. Set in 1997, during the handover of Hong Kong to China, players control a character named Chin, described as a relative of Bruce Lee. His mission is to eliminate an influx of people from mainland China, represented as endless waves of enemies, and ultimately defeat the resurrected Ta Xiaoping, a reference to Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping. The game's blatant anti-Chinese sentiment and the use of a real political figure as a villain were seen as highly offensive, while a graphic image shown at the game's end further shocked audiences. Quest for Saddam is a 2003 first-person shooter set during the Iraq War. In this low-budget game, players fight Iraqi soldiers and ultimately aim to eliminate Saddam Hussein. The protagonist is a well-trained Special Forces soldier, armed with a range of weapons and accompanied by a cast of comical characters. In 2006, the game was modified and released as Quest for Bush, where the objective shifted. Players take on the role of a jihadist fighting American soldiers across 6 levels, ultimately confronting the final boss, George W. Bush. While Quest for Saddam was criticized for oversimplifying and trivializing the Iraq War, Quest for Bush served as a tool of anti-American propaganda. This first-person shooter recreates the assassination of US President John F. Kennedy. sparking significant controversy upon its release in 2004. Set on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, the player assumes the role of Lee Harvey Oswald, positioned in the Texas Schoolbook Depository. The gameplay involves aiming and shooting at the moving motorcade, attempting to replicate bullet trajectories and wounds reported by the Warren Commission. Critics and the public widely condemn the game for using a tragic event for entertainment and profit, though the developers argued it was intended as an educational tool. Some praised the game's realistic physics. KZ Manager is the title of several resource management games, the first of which was released in 1990. It's a controversial simulation game where players manage a concentration camp during the Holocaust. The objective is to balance expenses, income, and production goals. Presented in a cold, managerial style devoid of empathy or historical context, the game has little to no music and sparked outrage for its insensitive depiction of the Holocaust. It was widely condemned and banned in several countries, including Germany. "177" is a Japanese erotic action game released in 1986, its title referencing a Japanese legal statute. Players control a male character attempting to chase down a female character with the intent to assault her. The gameplay involves navigating various levels while avoiding obstacles and other characters. The game was heavily criticized for promoting and trivializing sexual violence against women. It was considered deeply problematic not only for its graphic content, but also for treating serious crimes as entertainment. Eventually, 177 was withdrawn and re-released with more conservative scenes and gameplay. Released in 2006, Zog's Nightmare is one of the most violent and anti-Semitic games ever made. Players assume the role of characters fighting against various groups and individuals. The gameplay mechanics are typical of a first-person shooter, with players traversing different levels and battling enemies of diverse races and nationalities, all portrayed in extremely offensive and derogatory ways. Nearly every wall in the game is adorned with images of Adolf Hitler and Nazi propaganda posters from World War II, accompanied by heavy metal music laden with racial slurs. Saturated with racist and anti-Semitic ideology, the game is a disturbing promotion of hate. Spec Ops: The Line is a third-person shooter released in 2012, set in a sandstorm-ravaged Dubai. The game was designed as a narrative-driven experience, highlighting the real horrors of war and forcing players into morally ambiguous decisions. As the story progresses, the protagonist's mental health deteriorates and he confronts haunting hallucinations. Players face numerous armed enemies, using diverse weapons and environmental tactics to survive. The game challenges players' morals with gut-wrenching decisions, aiming to test their ethics and provoke introspection, earning acclaim for its psychological depth and storytelling. Resident Evil is a revolutionary game that popularized the survival horror genre. First released in 2002, players explore a mysterious mansion, battling bloodthirsty zombies and other horrifying monsters. However, the game emphasizes avoiding direct combat. With limited ammunition supplies and defeated enemies can reanimate, becoming even more formidable. The storyline and endings vary depending on the chosen character and decisions made throughout the game. Resident Evil spawned an entire universe, becoming one of the most discussed franchises among science fiction fans. It stands out for its focus on bioterrorism and zombie virus management, with action and horror as its defining elements. Packed with guns, monsters, and an unstoppable protagonist, Doom is a true classic of first-person shooters. First released in 1993, set in a distant future on Mars, a portal to hell is accidentally opened during experiments, unleashing terrifying creatures into the world. The protagonist, a space marine, must gather weapons and navigate the labyrinthine science complex to find his comrades and escape. The simple yet engaging gameplay lets players enjoy the action. The levels are intricate mazes, with dangers lurking around every corner. A distinctive feature is the protagonist's head in the interface, which turns toward enemies and changes expression based on health status. Doom was also a pioneer in multiplayer gaming, becoming one of the first significant networked shooters. Clock Tower is a survival horror point-and-click series that debuted in 1995 in Japan. Its plot is partially inspired by the 1985 film Phenomena. Players control the protagonist, Jennifer Simpson, by guiding her with a cursor. The game is unique for its antagonist, who stalks the player, disrupting puzzle solving and forcing them to flee or hide. Despite initially being Japan exclusive, fans elevated its international popularity, cementing it as a rare classic. The game's atmosphere of dread and multiple endings have made it a favorite among horror enthusiasts. Devotion is a first-person atmospheric game that blends horror and mysterious puzzles. It immerses players in its story without tutorials. One moment, the protagonist hears his wife cooking dinner and asks about their daughter, and the next, he's alone, uncovering the fate of his deceased family. The game consists of corridors, each a microcosm of hell. It avoids conventional jump scares or enemies, instead turning the mundane into weapons of fear. The story centers on parental love and takes place in the 1980s, referencing Taiwanese culture, religion, and music of the era. Controversy arose due to a reference to China's president and Winnie the Pooh, leading to its removal before a re-release in 2021. Chiller is a light gun arcade game released in 1986, notorious for its grotesque violence. Players assume the role of a torturer tasked with inflicting harm on characters, with the challenge being how quickly they can kill each victim. The gameplay spans 4 levels: a torture chamber, storage room, haunted house corridor, and graveyard. The objective is to activate medieval torture devices for faster, bloodier deaths. Chiller faced criticism for its senseless violence and graphic depictions of torture, but found success in third world markets. Released in 2002 by the white supremacist organization National Alliance, Ethnic Cleansing is a first-person shooter designed to be provocative. The gameplay mechanics and graphics are unremarkable, but the game is rife with offensive racial stereotypes. The player, portraying a skinhead, progresses through 2 levels, killing enemies such as African Americans, Latinos, and Jews. The final boss is a fictionalized version of Ariel Sharon, then Prime Minister of Israel. Released on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the game was priced at $14.88, a reference to white supremacist symbols, further inflaming criticism. Widely condemned as one of the most politicized and hateful video games, it stands as a stark example of how games can be weaponized for propaganda. Released in 2006 in Japan, Rayl is a controversial 3D erotic game. The story follows a male protagonist, a sexual predator with a history of arrests, who targets a mother and her 2 underage daughters. Gameplay alternates between stalking and assaulting the women, culminating in capturing all 3. The narrative unfolds in a visual novel format, interspersed with interactive sequences. The explicit scenes and disturbing themes sparked global outrage when the game gained international attention 3 years after its release. Banned in several countries, including Australia, where distributing the game carries criminal penalties, Rayl remains a focal point in debates on the ethics of video game content. Released in 1996, Harvester is a point-and-click adventure game that remains infamous for its graphic violence. The story takes place in the town of Harvest, where Steve Mason wakes up with no memory of his past or identity. Players unravel the mystery by completing daily tasks that escalate from harmless pranks to gruesome murders. This eccentric game features an ambitious and deeply enigmatic story, with puzzles that offer multiple solutions. it is filled with grotesque violence, bizarre characters, and a hidden commentary on violence in video games. Despite, or perhaps because of, its controversial content, Harvester has maintained a cult following. This 2015 third-person action RPG is a gothic masterpiece that blends combat and storytelling. Set in the Victorian-inspired city of Yarnum, plagued by a mysterious disease, the narrative unfolds through dialogue, sparse cutscenes, and environmental storytelling. The game's atmosphere is haunting, filled with chilling moments created by its combat, eerie sound design, and constant sense of dread. Bloodborne uses death as a teaching tool, encouraging players to learn from mistakes in a trial-and-error approach to overcome its high difficulty. Praised for its rich detail, variety, and depth, the game achieved commercial success and is hailed as one of the best cosmic horror experiences in gaming. SOMA is a 2015 psychological horror game and one of the greatest story-driven horror games ever created. The game takes players on a journey to the bottom of the ocean, questioning the very nature of what it means to be alive. The protagonist, Simon Jarrett, wakes up in an underwater research facility on a post-apocalyptic Earth, 100 years into the future, after undergoing a brain scan. He finds himself surrounded by mechanical abominations eager to tear him apart. The game world fosters a sense of loneliness and hopelessness, slowly creeping up on the player. With crust-covered corridors, puzzle solving, and exploration, each new area reveals chilling monsters to hide from. The game delves into heavy themes, offering a story that captivates from the start, challenging the player's perception of reality and leaving their mind in a whirlwind of doubts. Murder House is a 2020 third-person survival horror and slasher game that delivers a truly unsettling experience. Players assume the role of Emma, an intern on a news crew filming a segment in the abandoned home of the Easter Ripper, a serial killer executed 3 years prior. The gameplay involves progressing through puzzles, collecting items, and exploring eerie environments. The game captures the essence of horror with a tense atmosphere and a powerful antagonist who's as fascinating as he is terrifying to encounter. Despite its modest scope, the story unfolds impressively, leading to a satisfying conclusion and leaving a lasting impression. Upon its release, the game was banned in Japan due to graphic depictions of violence and was censored for the Asian market. This first-person survival horror adventure game, released in 2010, centers on Daniel, the amnesiac protagonist exploring the dark and sinister Brennenburg Castle. As he solves puzzles, he struggles to maintain his sanity while evading monsters. The story gradually uncovers Daniel's past, but instead of conventional weapons, survival hinges on running and hiding. The game introduces a unique mechanic of managing mental health. Blurring and distortion effects, color filters, heavy breathing, and an ominous soundtrack amplify the protagonist's mental turmoil. Amnesia: The Dark Descent received widespread acclaim for its incredibly atmospheric graphics, sound design, and haunting ambience, which persist until the very end. This masterpiece of first-person survival horror takes place 15 years after the events of the film Alien. Ripley's daughter finds herself trapped on a space station swarming with aliens and hiding the mystery of her mother's disappearance. Lacking strength or combat skills, the player must scavenge resources, improvise solutions, and rely on cunning to complete missions while avoiding the relentless monster. A highlight of the game is the aliens' advanced AI, programmed to hunt players using sight, sound, and even smell, making it unpredictable and far more intelligent than initially expected. The game maintains an atmosphere of constant fear and mortal danger, full of terrifying jump scares. Alien: Isolation is meticulously detailed, faithfully adhering to the visual style of the original film, with the cunning xenomorph adding to the relentless tension. And Until Dawn is a 2015 survival horror video game, hailed as one of the best interactive horror experiences. The story follows a group of 8 friends who reunite in a remote mountain lodge a year after a tragic incident involving the disappearance of 2 friends. The group is stalked by a masked figure and must overcome various obstacles, including supernatural threats. The game is notable for its branching storyline, requiring players to make critical decisions to ensure the survival of all characters until dawn. The butterfly effect is brilliantly showcased, as every choice impacts gameplay, relationships, and the fate of the characters. With its captivating narrative, character development, and cinematic presentation, Until Dawn stands out as a genre highlight. Squirrel Stapler is a 2023 horror-themed hunting simulator that satirizes low-budget entertainment games. The protagonist is a man living in a remote cabin who discovers his beloved nailed to the wall, dead. Dissatisfied with her appearance, he ventures into the forest to hunt squirrels, intending to staple them to his wife's body to make her beautiful again. The gameplay pays homage to classic hunting games, while the story is steeped in postmodern art, exploring the absurdity of existence. This deliberately simple adventure has a singular, unsettling purpose, with a theme that both disturbs and provokes thought. Utaho no Tatari is a classic Japanese indie horror RPG released in 2011. The game follows a young girl who loses her family under mysterious circumstances and must uncover the truth by exploring a haunted mansion. The game is filled with eerie imagery of people and unsettling faces that appear at random moments throughout the story. A standout feature is a screen glitch effect, a jumbled mix of letters, numbers, and random symbols, followed by a chilling noise and a terrifying image that suddenly appears. This programmed mechanic is often cited by players as one of the most frightening jump scares in RPG history. Once Human is an engaging post-apocalyptic open-world survival game with a quest system presented in a narrative format. Stardust has transformed the Earth, infecting it and all living things, but the protagonist, a meta-human, is capable of surviving the contamination. The game offers the unique ability to create a custom character and play solo or team up with friends to fight, build, and explore the world. What if robots lived alongside humans in a perfect technological world? Could they coexist peacefully, or would it lead to conflict? Gamers will discover the answer in Atomic Heart, a first-person shooter with RPG elements. Set in an alternate past with a mysterious retro-futuristic Soviet atmosphere, the game stands out with its high-quality graphics and hyper-realism. The worlds of cinema and video games are intricately intertwined, creating magnificent masterpieces. Who knows what exciting innovations await us in the near future? Sexy Beach is a 2002 simulation game with elements of adult gaming and virtual reality. Set on a beach or resort, it focuses on interactions between the player and various female characters. The gameplay combines dating simulation with visual novel elements, where players engage in conversations aimed at building relationships. While it faced no issues in Japan, the game encountered criticism and legal challenges in other countries due to its depiction of explicit activities and characters with a suspiciously youthful appearance. As a result, sequels were released in limited quantities outside Japan. Cry of Fear is a 2013 first-person shooter and psychological horror game set in an abandoned city filled with horrific creatures and nightmarish visions. The game addresses unsettling themes, such as drug addiction, but has been praised for its visuals, atmosphere, and storyline. The plot follows 19-year-old Simon Henriksen, who is confined to a wheelchair after a car accident. Simon suffers from depression, panic disorders, and substance addiction. His psychologist devises a treatment method involving a journal of his emotions and moods, leading Simon into a nightmarish version of the city, shrouded in darkness and ignorance. The game offers multiple choices, resulting in different consequences and endings, keeping players on edge throughout. It is often hailed as one of the best horror games. Euphoria is a Japanese adult visual novel released in 2011, blending psychological horror mystery with highly explicit scenes. The story takes place in a closed environment where the protagonist, Keisuke, 5 of his female classmates, and their teacher are forced to participate in a twisted game under the threat of sadistic execution. The game primarily involves reading text, solving puzzles, and making decisions that affect the story's progression. Euphoria is notorious for its dark themes and controversial content, sparking significant criticism and debate. Paratopic is a short yet intense 2018 first-person horror game with a graphical style reminiscent of the 32-bit era. Its narrative is abstract and fragmented, often requiring multiple playthroughs to grasp its meaning fully. The story revolves around an organization attempting to connect to another dimension. The game brilliantly combines horror imagery with peculiar sound design to immerse players in a nightmarish world. Players explore surreal environments and pursue enigmatic goals while solving light puzzles. The game features mundane conversations, seemingly unrelated to the plot. With its oppressive atmosphere, Paratopic feels like stepping into a nightmare governed by dream logic and unsettling oddities.